Hello, Virgo. There's something in the air that may not be able to wait much longer. A pressure, a gathering, the particular quality of atmosphere that exists just before something breaks open, not violently, not destructively, but in the way a sealed thing finally releases what it's been holding, in the way a silence ends, in the way a story that's been building quietly in the background of your life suddenly steps into the foreground and asks to be seen. Something like that may be approaching you. And it may be closer than it feels from where you're standing right now. There are moments that arrive without warning labels. They don't announce themselves as significant until they're already happening or until they've already happened, and you find yourself looking back, tracing the line from where you are to where you were, and realizing that everything turned somewhere in that unremarkable stretch of hours, that the before and the after were separated by something that, in the moment, looked like an ordinary Wednesday. It's possible that something like that is forming right now. In the invisible space between today and what's coming, in the quiet machinery of circumstance that operates beneath the surface of the visible, in a convergence of things, decisions, timing, people, moments that hasn't yet assembled itself into something you can see clearly, but that may be much closer to completion than the current view suggests. Something may be almost ready to show itself. Let's talk about surprises, the real kind, not the manufactured ones, not the things we engineer for ourselves or half expect because we've been circling them long enough that their arrival, when it finally comes, feels more like relief than shock. The real kind arrives differently. It has a quality of suddenness that the body registers before the mind does, a moment of pure, unmediated response, before interpretation, before the usual filters, before the part of you that manages your reactions has had a chance to step in and compose things into something more controlled. In that first unguarded second, you find out what you actually feel. Not what you've decided to feel, not what makes sense given the circumstances, or what would be reasonable, or what the careful, measured version of you has concluded. What you actually feel underneath all of that, in the place that doesn't consult anyone before it responds, that place may be about to be activated. And whatever it reveals, whatever rises up in you in that unguarded moment may tell you something important, something you may have been circling without quite landing on. Something about what you want, what you've been hoping for, what you didn't realize you'd been holding your breath about until the breath finally releases. Think about the last few weeks. Has there been a quality of restlessness to them? A sense that something is on the verge of moving without any clear indication of what or where or how. A feeling that the current arrangement of your life, however functional, however managed, is somehow provisional, like furniture that's been placed temporarily and hasn't quite found its permanent position yet. That feeling may not be anxiety. It may be anticipation, the body's way of registering before the conscious mind has any evidence that something in the field around you is shifting, that the particular configuration of your circumstances is about to be rearranged in ways you didn't initiate and couldn't have predicted, but that may carry, embedded in the rearrangement, something you've been quietly reaching toward without always knowing you were reaching. There are forms of knowing that arrive before their evidence does. And it's possible you've been living in one of them, carrying a sense that something is coming, without a name for it, without a shape for it, without anything concrete enough to point to and say, this is what I've been feeling. Just the feeling itself, persistent, directionless. And somehow, underneath the uncertainty of it, not entirely uncomfortable, there's something worth considering about the nature of what may be approaching. Surprises the kind that genuinely change something tend to fall into a particular category, not the category of things that arrive from nowhere with no connection to anything that came before. More often, they're the visible surface of something that has been assembling beneath the waterline for longer than anyone involved fully realized. A relationship that suddenly declares itself was usually building toward that declaration long before either person named it. An opportunity that appears without warning was usually being created in some adjacent space by choices and movements that didn't announce their destination. A door that opens unexpectedly was usually unlocked by something, some action, some quality, some version of who you've been becoming long before the handle was turned. So, what may be approaching you isn't entirely disconnected from what you've already been living. It may be the surface expression of something that's been growing in the invisible, fed by choices you made, connections you maintained, qualities you developed, a version of yourself you've been becoming through the particular difficulty and endurance of the time you've been in. You may have been building toward this without knowing you were building toward anything. Wednesday carries a particular energy in this reading, not as a fixed point, not as a guarantee of any specific event at any specific hour, but as a convergence, a place in time where something that has been in motion may finally become visible, where what's been assembling beneath the surface may break through into the kind of clarity that can actually be held, named, responded to. It's possible that something arrives before then, or that it arrives in the form of a realization rather than an external event, an internal shift that rearranges how you see something, how you understand something, how you feel about a situation that suddenly looks different in a new light. Sometimes the biggest surprises aren't things that happen to us. They're things we suddenly see that were always there, but that we weren't quite ready to look at directly until a particular moment made it possible. Something may make it possible soon. And when it does, when whatever this is finally steps out of the peripheral and into the center of your field of vision, the invitation is simply to let it land. To resist the urge to immediately process it, manage it, fold it in to the existing narrative of how you've understood things until now. Just let it land first. There's someone who may be connected to what's coming. A person whose presence in your life or whose return to your awareness, however that takes shape, carries something significant in this window of time. Someone whose name or face or energy may have been surfacing for you more than usual. Someone connected to a situation that has felt unresolved, or to a possibility that hasn't yet declared itself fully, or to a chapter that ended without quite feeling complete. This person may be part of what's shifting, not necessarily in a way you've been able to anticipate, not necessarily in the form you may have imagined if you let yourself imagine it, but in a real way, a way that may require something of you when it arrives. A willingness to receive something you'd stopped actively expecting, an openness to a version of events that your more defended self had started to file away as unlikely. Keep that openness available, not as a performance of receptivity, but as a genuine internal posture, a decision made quietly and held lightly, not to be so committed to how you've understood things that you miss what's actually being offered when it finally arrives in a form you can see. Here is what the energy seems to want you to know before Wednesday comes. You are more prepared for this than you feel. Whatever is approaching, whatever form the surprise takes, whatever it asks of you, whatever it changes in the landscape of your life, you have been shaped by everything you've already been through into someone who can meet it. Not someone who handles things perfectly, not someone without fear or uncertainty or the entirely human impulse to want a little more time to get ready, but someone who has already demonstrated quietly, without an audience, in the unglamorous dailiness of continuing, that they are capable of absorbing significant things, of being moved without being dismantled, of standing inside something unexpected and finding, even in the disorientation, a version of themselves that knows what to do next. That capacity is already in you. And something that may be about to ask you to use it, to call it forward, to let it meet what's coming with the full weight of everything you've already survived in your hands. Stay present this week, not with urgency, not with grasping at every interaction, looking for signs. Just present, eyes open, heart a little less defended than usual. Something may be looking for exactly that opening, and it may find it before Wednesday comes. Take care, bye.